Welcome back to the Armchair Attorney Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Leffler, the Armchair Attorney, often duplicated, never replicated. I know why you're here. You're here to talk about trailers. That's why we're all here. That's why every single one of us wakes up in the morning with a spring in our step. What did that beautiful trailer bring to you today? Oh, we're going to get into that. But before we can have my very special guest, the president and CEO of Wabash. Oh, that's right, Wabash. We got to say a shout out to our sponsors. And those sponsors make it all happen, as well as you, the viewers and the listeners. I am so appreciative every single time you tune in to listen to we talk about the law and supply chain and all of the things that help keep America moving. It is dangerous and difficult work to safely deliver freight on time and undamaged. Even in the best circumstances, it's not easy. And this time of year and this time of market, it certainly isn't easy. But my friends at DAT, Dial a Truck, since 1978, DAT has been helping people find freight, truckers, brokers, data for shippers. Oh, there's so many things you can do if you got that guy in your corner. And that guy is sitting right behind me. So thank you for my friends at DAT. If you're new to DAT, and some of you are, or you're starting a new brokerage, or you're a motor carrier looking at technologies to help you move better, check out the link in the show notes with DAT. If you're new, for the next 12 months, you will save 10% off of your yearly costs. So check that out. And of course, my great friends over at GenLogs, Ryan Joyce and that team is changing the paradigm of freight intelligence. They got the cameras. They're always watching, looking. If you're looking for a new standard of care in the transportation of your freight and wondering where your equipment is, I would urge you to go over to genlogs.io and check out a demo. There's a link in the show notes. I urge you to do that thing. Now, without further ado, look, I've been telling you guys for a long time that I love trailers, and I've been very open about this. My father started a company back in 1991. And his first customers, Roadway Package Systems. Roadway Package Systems became Caliber, and Caliber became FedEx Ground. And what did Ground have? Well, they had independent contractors doing their maintenance, like my father. They had independent contractors driving that freight around. But what did they have? Oh, they had those beautiful boxes. And I have been saying since the beginning of all of this that every innovation that is promised in the supply chain, every promise made by the technology we care about, is predicated on a connected and well-maintained trailer. So who better than Brent Yeagy of Wabash to tell me a little bit about the connected trailer? Brent, thank you for joining us.
It's so great to be here, Matthew. I'm on the Armchair Attorney Podcast. It's amazing.
You run a publicly traded company. That's certainly a very important thing, but clearly this is the highlight, right?
It is. I've been looking forward to this for years. I feel like it's a pinnacle of my career.
Well, for the people who don't know you, there might be one or two. Who are you and what do you do?
Sure. So I'm President and Chief Executive Officer, and I have the privilege of doing that with Wabash. And I've been at this great company, this Innovative Leaders, for 23 years, and I've been CEO for the last 8.
How long has Wabash been in business? Because this is a fairly new-ish kind of business, right?
So right at 40 years. We were founded in 85 and went public in 91.
I will tell you, I think Wabash and I share a birthday, at least birthday year. I was born in 85. Great year to have a birthday. Well, for what Wabash, you were one of the largest trailer manufacturers in North America. Can you talk a little bit about like what Wabash is doing day in and day out?
Sure. Let's start. Wabash is absolutely a leader in trailers, but we're really a leader in transportation-related equipment. We are the second largest truck body manufacturer. We're second largest in tanks. We're one of the largest in platform trailers. So we really think about us being a first to final mile solution across many different modalities. And we also think about Wabash as providing services that help in the caretaking of capacity. So go ahead.
How did you get into Wabash? Like, what drove you to the company?
Well, I would say at the fringe of the heavy duty trucking market in my previous employer, which is Delco Remy, starters and alternators. And a recruiter called me one day and said, "Hey, Wabash is trying to do something interesting." This was 2003. New leadership's coming in. You want to be a part of it? And I said, "Hey, I'm up for the challenge. Let's go talk to them." And they gave me a vision of where the company was going. And so I made the leap and jumped over to trailers in 2003.
At what point in your career did you realize like there was no escape from supply chain? Or do you still think like there's a chance you could do something that's not related to
I
transportation?
mean, it's been 23 years, so I've given up hope a long, long time ago. We talk about this in the industry all the time. Trailers, it's hard to get out of it. Supply chain in general it's difficult. And the customers are so dynamic. There's so many of them. The issues are complex and changing. Needs and problems are always shifting. And so it never gets boring around here.
That's amazing. How many trailers of all the different types is Wabash like producing a year? Because the scale is astonishing to me.
Yeah. So when we are running at call it relatively peak output, so let's go back to 2023. When you count everything that we do, excluding services, almost 80,000 units of equipment across truck bodies, platforms, tanks, trailers, across the board.
How many people are employed within Wabash in this incredible company?
Yeah, so we're going to average somewhere between 4,800 and 6,500 total employees. That's 13 manufacturing locations, primarily in the United States. We have one in Mexico. And that doesn't count our JVs, where we have 5 major aftermarket part distribution locations as well.
That's incredible. How many SKUs on parts are you guys running through at any given time?
Oh, we have about 10,000, what I would say, active SKUs. But when you think about the long life of a mobile asset, arguably we have hundreds of thousands of SKUs that are in our library.
How long is a trailer supposed to last? Because I've always been of the opinion, if you maintain that trailer well, you got at least 10, 15 years. But what have you seen in the experience of your side of the business?
Great question. I mean, when a trailer can be spec'd to be a highly capable, good cost per mile product or asset for a company, but it really depends on how you spec it. We have a large part of our customer base that has moved to a 5-year first life. We kind of put trailers in a first, second, third life. Absolutely. There's a fourth, but we try not to talk about that. Not on the road anymore at that point. So first life, we see it a lot at 5, and then we see that traditional 12, 13, 14-year asset. And then after that, it moves into the secondary market. And then it's got another 5 to 7 years there.
That's incredible. I think of it because I used to be a big service provider for firms like Old Dominion Freight Line and OD. Love that team. They run a lot of Wabashes, 28-foot pubs with roll-up doors. Do you have a door preference? You like a roll-up? Do you like a swing? Or are you happy with any type of trailer door?
It's all based on application. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want the door that makes me money. That's the door I like. So you give me the right application, I'll give you the right door, and let's go make money.
All right. Well, let's get a little bit more controversial here. Are you a disc brake man or are you an air brake guy? What do you think about the braking technologies on modern trailers?
Yeah, that's again. Look, we're a bunch of engineers around here, and so again, I got to go with what's my application? What problem am I solving? I would say for most applications, I think an air brake is just fine. There are absolutely some where you want to really kind of maximize the characteristics of disc brakes, where the way you operate it, the stopping distance is something you really want to take advantage of, but you have to manage that with the added costs that you're going to have over the useful life of that trailer.
Well, this is what I love about, because like I talk with shippers all the time and they say like, oh, we only use air ride for our suspensions. We can't have the spring suspension. It's not good enough for the freight. But I know for a fact that the different types of suspension, spring included, aren't bad for freight. Like, what do you think about suspension, air versus spring?
Oh yeah, you're gonna get me in so much trouble, right, with the suspension guys. Again, we've done studies of our own for both air and spring, different types of loads, loaded, unloaded, uneven loading, different roads, different applications, different driver behaviors. And you give me the application and I'll tell you it should be spring. You give me the application, I'll tell you it should be air. But to say that there is one size fits all, that'd be too easy.
I couldn't agree with you more. I found that from my own experience, the air suspensions often require more maintenance and more service. And I think on the spring side, I don't see as much of that, but the mentality or the perception in the industry, at least from the shipper side, has been my stuff is so important. I can't risk it being on anything but air ride. And again, I love all suspensions. I'm with you. I want the right suspension for the right use case. But I will say, and this is my controversial thing, this is not speaking on your behalf, I'm not a fan of super single tires. I'm just not. Like, I understand them. They're neat, but I'm not a fan. What, do you have an opinion on super singles?
I wouldn't put them on if it were me.
They're great for dolly converters. I love them on a dolly. I love them on a dolly. Maybe on the drive tires of a tractor, maybe. But I'm just not sold on having super singles on a trailer.
I like 8. 8 is a wonderful number.
Absolutely. Okay, when you talk about like specialty trailers, do you guys make a lot of specialty stuff like multiple axle trailers?
We do. I mean, we do tris, quads, different configuration of quads. We'll put them on, drop deck, straight rail. And then you've got the variations that go on our platform and tank trailers as well. When you're moving into Canada and Michigan and a lot of different regulations that you can take advantage of, it absolutely can make sense to put that product on, and we'll accommodate where we can.
That's incredible. Like, see, I when I was first got you on side so we can do this podcast, I was thinking, what are all my favorite trailer questions? And I love to think about like the most common repair items we encounter. So doors getting knocked off, glad hand seals getting ripped and torn. Has there ever been a surprising trailer like that? How did that happen? My favorite story I like to tell is I had a trailer that had a hole in the roof, and whoever fixed it before I got to it, they had taken manifest boxes and they pop riveted 3 manifest boxes on top of that roof. I'm like, well, that's a way to do it. I wouldn't do that myself. But what surprises you about the business?
Oh, and I'm very simple. The myriad of ways that our customers can figure out how to rip off a corner post is amazing. And the amount of effort we put into trying to design and make the front end at a time, bulletproof tank-like to address driver behavior is significant. But we've had, 23 years, I've seen crazy things. We got called to a customer one time, and the literal aluminum base rails were just disintegrating around at the floor seal. And they're going, your floor is defective. You're like, I don't think so.
Now, what are you putting inside that box?
What are you putting inside that box? Oh, use batteries on flat on the tray, on the floor, no catch basin, nothing, not even a skid, block stacking. Well, yeah.
That'll do it. I mean,
there's not much you're going to put in there that's going to stop that guy.
And that stuff, like the bottom rails, I mean, most of these are, I think they're aluminum. Am I right? So these are very anti-corrosive, but even you see a 10-year-old trailer at those cross members, you're going to see some level of oxidation and some stuff going through. But battery acid, that's a nice one. That's an interesting one. That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Well, on the corner cap side, like I live in the Chicagoland area, so we have viaducts, and there's at least every couple of days a trailer meets a viaduct. They have a little hello, and then that nose rail or those corner caps get smashed up.
We don't have an option for that. There's nothing, hey, let's help me get past the bridge. No.
Yeah. You lower all the air in your tires and go really low. That's the way to do it. Drop the bogey. That'll help. It's crazy as we look at like this new, I call it like a renaissance of trailers. So my father worked at Roadway back in the 1970s and 80s. So he came in the business before deregulation. And those days it was yellow Roadway CF trucks and trailers, maybe 7 trailers to a truck, maybe 8, 10 to a truck. And you see it today, the truckload guys, maybe 2 trailers per truck, maybe a little bit more, but we're seeing so much innovation. So are you feeling the rising tide of people wanting to be in the trailer or have access to more trailers?
Yeah. I mean, we saw pre 09 recession, I'll give you kind of a history, a rise of a trailer to tractor ratio in the 3.2 range. Coming out of the 09 recession, there was this, I would say, belief that maybe that's not the way to go. We want to be more efficient, more asset conscious. We actually saw that drop down into the 2s, 2.7, 2.6. Yeah. But by 2015, it's been a steady rise. And some of your best fleets, in my opinion, are running in certain lanes, 5-6 trailers to tractor. If you are a 1-to-1 and arguably 1-to-2, you are sometimes significantly blocked from getting access to best routes and even the best matches through the brokerages, which is one of the things that we're trying to address with our trailers as a service product.
Well, that's a really good point you bring up, and we'll segue to TaaS in a moment, because what we know shippers want, the manufacturers, the retailers, is they want drop trailers. They want access to those trailers, and not because always they want to have them just in case. A lot of times those become de facto storage trailers, and they like to have mobile warehouses, and I get that. Yeah. But if you're a driver and you only have one trailer, you're live loading. You're just sitting there waiting for that asset to get moving. If you have drop trailers, the flexibility is so much more substantial.
Yeah, one of the things we saw going all the way back to 2015, which has just been exacerbated with COVID. It's been exacerbated with the supply chain network disruption coming out of COVID. It's been disrupted with, now we've got redistribution of supply chain related to tariff action or the retreat of globalization. Just a few little things.
Yeah, that's small. There. Rounding errors, really.
Yeah, that the embedded inefficiency within the transportation logistics stream, going beyond carriers, but really thinking through the whole enterprise of it, has so substantially increased that the pressure is put on that asset base, right, to kind of, again, to maintain flow, and it's pushing assets needing to be in place. That little bit of insurance that when you feel that friction, you can keep moving. Sometimes it relates in trailers having to be parked. In other cases, we're trying to minimize weight, but carriers are trying to figure out how to keep moving while all this disruption is happening around them in the macro, but it always boils down to micro friction that they feel. And that's going to suck money away, revenue, if they can't keep moving.
That's right. That's right. There's been no more efficient way to move freight than drop and hook. That is how every LTL operates. The truckload, big truckload folks, that's how they operate. And for the smaller fleets or these brokerages we're talking about, they are learning. They're learning this. And I think there's a great data that my buddy Craig Fuller put out about 20 years ago. Maybe 6% of freight was moved by a broker, but you look at it today and it's 20%, 22, 23%. It's astronomical. And then when I talk with people about trailers, they go, Matt, why are you love trailers so much? I don't love them any more than C.H. Robinson does, or ITS Logistics or Freightvana. These are companies that know what their customers want, and their customers want trailers. So let's talk about the genesis of this trailer as a service TaaS. What is it, and how do people get to use it?
Yeah, so trailers as a service is, we like to think about it as we're selling capacity. Trailer just happens to be part of what we are putting into that product. That product is, while you get a trailer, you actually get a digital platform that happens to be embedded in the trailer, so that you can, it's a very fungible asset that allows you to connect to a lot of different things. It allows you to access insurance quickly. It allows you to aggregate tolls. It allows you to think about, especially if you do not have network maintenance coverage, how do you, our fleet care program that you tackle with it. So it enables the small and medium-sized carrier who wants access to capacity quickly to pull into and use a pool of trailers that can really enable their business. And that can come in a lot of different ways: short-term, mid-term, long-term, dedicated, in terms of its application. So we call it trailers as a service, but it's really 2 or 3 different products when you think about the use of it, plus all the ancillary services that goes with it. That's why we call it capacity. We're selling capacity. We went all the way back to 2015, and we're looking at this pickup in drop and hook. We also saw the rise of digital brokerages. We saw what that would enable in terms of empowering an aspect of our customer base that we didn't really tap into because we were selling to large public carriers primarily. So you look at us today, and between adding capacity layers that the private fleets are adding, the known dynamics of publics, both truckload and LTL, but now we have to think through, hey, if 20% growth in the digitally enabled brokerage use is empowering these other customers and they need access to trailers, what's the best way to provide that to them efficiently where they may not be in the best position to purchase that asset outright?
I couldn't agree with you more, because what I've learned in the business of maintaining trailers is you have fleets that are always going to be ownership fleets. They're going to own a portion, but they have surges, they have ebbs and flows.
Mm-hmm.
We see it with peak season. I remember with one of our larger customers, they would onboard 3,000 trailers every year for peak season, but they didn't want to own those things.
Nope.
They wanted to give them back when they were done, and making it easier for folks to get access to capacity without having to all the sunk cost and the capital expenses to get this thing. That's one super interesting avenue. But the other one you highlighted is this growth of the digital brokers, or the brokers in general, who realize that they can go toe to toe with the asset-based folks in big contract freight. But the thing that they don't have is trailers. And so once they get them, now they're able to be in that same conversation. And so you meet a new customer as they're emerging and provide them a service. And I think you might agree with me on this, maybe not, but I've learned over my time in the business that most brokers have no idea how to operate a fleet of trailers or maintain a fleet of trailers. So a turnkey solution is critical.
I'm not going to talk disparagingly of brokers, but yeah, I tend to agree with your thesis there. So yeah, that, when you think about those emerging aggressive brokerages that are out there, they want to own trailers, but they don't want to own trailers.
Yeah, they want the access. They want the access to the asset. They don't want to have it. I use this analogy. You might have heard versions of it, but I call it CASE. It's the connected supply chain, the autonomous rise of whether it's manufacturing or whether it's at the driver level at some point in the future, sharing. So getting access to things you don't own, but being able to use those things. And then ultimately some level of electrification down the road. But every single one of those pieces, these big trends and forces, they're all tied to trailers. Like everything from track and trace that people care about for where's my freight to cargo theft and fraud, it all comes back to that incredible box. So what do you think is, like, you look at the future of transportation, how does Wabash solve those problems today, and how do they solve them in the future?
Yeah, without, it's such a dynamic industry to say, exactly how you're going to solve them specifically, 3, 5, 7, 10 years out, it's difficult. We generally believe that the general concept of trailer pools is going to expand. We think to enable that, when you have large trailer pools, you also have large data sets that go with those trailer pools. So the trailer becomes a digital platform, not in the context that most try to solve it, which is, I'm trying to manage operating costs per mile or maintenance costs per mile, or I just want to know, is my door shut or my doors open? But you're really thinking about what's the digital platform that needs to be there to actually enable them to drive revenue for their business. And that's different. So go ahead.
I'm going to say, as I look, I think you're exactly right, because most big trucking companies know their cost per mile. They know their maintenance cost per mile. They have the network of service providers. But the beautiful thing about trailers is they can go anywhere, anytime. Like they're always moving. And so if you're trying to get into business with folks that need you to have those assets and you don't know how to manage them, you are at a major disadvantage, because it's very easy to get over your skis in these things.
If you're managing a dynamic trailer pool, different product than a standard lease and rental, right? I have a contract. I know where they're at. It's not moving. It's pretty static. When you're managing a flexible trailer pool, we have different drivers that'll be moving in and out of said asset, periodically, sometimes very quickly. So our Trailer Hawk product is an example of using the trailer as a digital platform to be able to link into. So this is a digital physical combination, ultimately, of a locking mechanism to the doors that's physically integrated, that's connected to a digital platform, that's connected to facial recognition, that's connected to the TMS said HR system, to where we know when Bob shows up and Bob is connecting through facial recognition into the app, he's the only one that can access that. He'll be filling out the logs. He'll be filling out the inspections through that app. We know it's him. And we know that that lock will not function for anybody than him.
You have that technology deployed out in the field right now?
We are putting it on our first set of trailers right now.
That's incredible. The future is coming faster than most people expect. Building off the trailer pool kind of conversation, we've seen this in the chassis world, right? So there's three companies, DCLI, FlexiVan, and Track, that own like 80% of all the chassis. Now, there's still companies have some, but this mentality of not owning it but having access to it is not new in the business. But on the trailer side, it is fairly new. It's a fairly novel idea.
Absolutely. I mean, we have two modalities on either side of us. We have it in chassis for intermodal containers, and we have it for rail cars.
That's right.
At scale. So why are we resistant to pools, or why isn't it? Because carriers, truck owners, operators love their trailers.
They do.
They love them. They want to spec them. They want to look at them. They want to take care of them. They're theirs. And that's how it's been. So it has to be more than I'm changing out the way you do your trailers. How do you want to manage your capital? How do you want to manage asset cycle? How do you want to make more money? How can you flex, right, to take advantages of discontinuities in regional economics so that you can price differently and take advantage of it? Let's help you run your business better.
Absolutely. I like the idea of like how people spec trailers, because they do the same thing with trucks. Obviously, every fleet has like, this is our spec. It's the best spec. We've tested it time and time again. And same goes for trailers. And I think people don't realize that. Like, most people go, oh, it's a 53-foot dry van. Maybe it's a composite panel. Maybe it's a sheet and post, but it's all the same. It's like kind of, but really there are some nuances in the trailer specking business.
Every trailer that's built at Wabash is engineered to order. Every single one, always has been since its founding. So is pretty much, other than a few of our competitors build speculative stock. That's for a different part of the market. We're engineer the order. That's why we're the premium innovative leader. And you're right. Every customer believes that their specification is the best.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's pretty good. Sometimes not really.
I think that's a good example, because like, it goes back to the use case. Like, if you're going to have an automotive spec trailer, you're going to have it done a specific way because you know the kind of damage that happens at the automotive. Or is it paper? Because people forget, like, paper's super heavy, and if that thing rolls around, you're going to have the side panels bowing out. So there's a nuances. But I think the point that I think I would emphasize to the folks listening is, generally speaking, for most general freight, the specs are going to be exactly what you need if you're watching, just general freight. So as you put these trailers out to the TaaS program, it's depending on the use case, obviously, but those specs are probably going to satiate the demand that given fleet or broker needs access to.
Yeah. So we are the general TaaS specification, both the digital aspect and the physical, are built on a very robust set of specifications. So you think about what we have access to. We have access to the large, what we call data pool of every specification for every trailer that we've ever made. We know exactly what works. We know exactly what works at scale, what is most cost effective to build and cost effective to use. You're probably going to find that on a TaaS trailer.
I love digging into the business side of trailers, because I think a lot of people kind of forget how sophisticated the trailer OEMs are, the trailer users, the trailer owners. I like to give the example, like one of the largest trailer leasing companies out there is Extra Lease, owned by Berkshire Hathaway. So like, there is a really interesting group of people that really love these assets. They know about them. And as I think about the promise of autonomous trucks, and we think, I mean, FMCSA has made some inclination. They're reevaluating level 4, which is a remote operator, level 5, remote assistant. I fundamentally believe you can't have an autonomous truck without having a well-maintained connected trailer. Do you see this potential rise in automation as one of these great tailwinds behind what Wabash is doing?
I'm not going to go as far as say great tailwind. What I will say is the trailering equipment is going to be part of the overall package that gets put on the road when you're managing the overall liability of an autonomous vehicle going down the road. It just is. Absolutely. So the integration is going to have to be there. And that's going to affect your ability to drop in hooks, swap trailers. Are you going to move in a mixed fleet? How are you going to manage that? Right. And when I talk to people about what paces the autonomous vehicle, it is not the technology. It is absolutely state and federal policy and public perception.
100%.
And right behind that's the insurance companies.
Absolutely.
So we have to solve, if you want to solve the problem of autonomous, you actually better be pulling ahead all of those problems first in your design, in your validation, and how you're going to think about the systems. Because you have to think about everything from the use cases, the deployment of technology that maybe isn't quite there yet in the connected solution between tractor and trailer. And then you have to play out how are you going to convince those regulators, policymakers, and underwriters why they should allow this thing to grow at scale.
I couldn't agree with you more, because I think we're seeing it intrastate. So the Auroras and the Kodiaks and others are out running intrastate, usually with a safety driver. So there's still someone kind of in the cab that could take over if necessary. But I look at it now as like an inevitability. I see the rise of automation is this continuation of what we saw with deregulation in the 80s and 90s and containerization in the 50s and 60s. So it's clear there's something happening, and it's happening now. And you guys are on the forefront of making that connection between the new technologies, the power units, and what we'll see with the trailers ultimately.
If you can't see for a level 3 autonomous FMCSA rewriting hours of service, then making a case for level 4 or 5 is a pipe dream.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll never pay for itself.
The thing I like about the autonomous promise is that, like, right now, the average out of service rate for commercial vehicles in the US is about 22%, give or take. So 1 in 5 vehicles, if you went out there and looked at them, you go, oh, that's not safe. And in the event of autonomous, you'll never have that level of failure. You could never survive. To your point on public trust, it would have to be well maintained. There's no opportunity to not maintain it.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about, I'm looking out my window right now. We're at 6 inches of snow.
Right? I'm seeing the same in my window.
And you think about autonomous vehicles going up and down on ramps and black ice and everything else. To manage the liability that goes with that and the perception of it, you're going to have a tight system all the way around, flat out. And the same level of tight system you should be operating at today.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think the part of autonomous that is the most interesting to me at the moment is how potentially more productive they would be. So an autonomous truck would function, I would imagine, much like a sleeper or a team driver. You're having the unit always running. The thing you would do is stop it for maintenance and stop it for fuel and stop it for P&D, but it's going to operate. So you would likely need more trailers. And I think you might know the number better than I do. It's like 5 million trailers in the US or somewhere in that range. That sound reasonable?
It's at least.
Okay, so we have, and that doesn't probably count the storage trailers, and we love the third and fourth life of those storage trailers. It's don't take them off the yard, but people end up doing that. Now, you mentioned earlier, we talked a little bit about tariffs, and so I talk with a lot of manufacturers. There's been a lot of interesting tariffs we've seen across the board. How is Wabash viewing these? How are you navigating them? Are you passing on these costs to the customers? What is the current thinking on the world of tariffs for you guys?
Yeah, tariffs are incredibly complex. We've done a lot to our supply chain to try to mitigate primarily what we would have been exposed to, so pre-COVID, and really based off the 2018 steel and aluminum tariffs. We changed our supply chain to really insulate ourselves from the vast majority of that. What you get is a secondary effect that as tariffs hit tier 3, 4, or tier 4, 3, 2 suppliers rolling up to tier 1s into say a suspension, ultimately you get a stack up of inflationary pressures at that primary assembly that goes on a trailer. We're just at the point where those are starting to come through, and that will be part of pricing decisions that will go into 2026. Now, that has to be integrated with the fact that we have substantial pressure from some of our competitors and the manner at which they maneuver within the international trade market or the supply chain markets right now, that puts pressure on our ability to do that and do that competitively to pass those on. And so that is a big deal for domestic manufacturers right now to have a level playing field so we can manage all these cost pressures that are coming at us.
We've seen in the past, like other organizations a couple of years ago, like dumping chassis in the United States. And then there was the court gets involved. They put in things like additional costs. Like, where are you seeing the biggest challenges for the domestic US based trailer manufacturers right now?
I mean, obviously we have international competition, and they use the existing, we'll call it trade laws and to their advantage in terms of how they maneuver around those, whether it's USMCA or avoiding USMCA. And that's a significant challenge for us. Being able to combat that is tough, and there are actions that we're taking to try to create a level playing field for domestic manufacturers, so that infrastructure can remain capable of being available to the U.S. market. That's a core set of infrastructure, whether it's national defense, highway resiliency, transportation resiliency. It's incredibly important that we do that. And so, some people may know that we've filed as part of a coalition of domestic manufacturers. We're asking the government to look into some of the practices of our competition. We just want a fair playing field so that we can do what we do best and make sure that we serve the United States well.
I followed along with this thing. So I know like Great Dane's a part of this. I love the team at Great Dane and Stoughton as well, I believe. Yep. It's interesting because this is a challenging time for everybody in the transportation industry. We have not seen a freight recession like this in a long time. And it's been one of the longest, like 3 years or so. And people are kind of waiting, and everyone keeps saying it's going to get better the back half of next year. And now it was the back half of next year last year, and the back half of next year, the year before that. As you look forward into 26, like how are you feeling about the world of transportation and logistics?
Well, I always look for the upside because it's such a vital aspect of the U.S. economy. So it never goes away. That's right. It will always return. That's what we talk to our people about. No, we may not know when, but it will always return. And so internally, we work very hard to maintain what we call that offensive capability to be able to react when the market turns. So we think about 2026, we execute to what we know, and we plan for what we believe will occur into 27. We can do those two things at exactly the same time. And that's how we look at it.
I love this type of environment. And my father was the same way. Bad economic times build amazing companies. And there's going to be a lot of capacity exiting, motor carriers not able to make their obligations and winding down, maybe brokers as well. But when those opportunities come, the shippers are still there. To your point, that freight doesn't stop. I mean, that's the one thing I know that will always be true. Freight doesn't stop. And so if you're a broker or a motor carrier and you're like, oh, I have a new opportunity with a customer who just lost their biggest provider, a solution like TaaS makes sense. Now, okay, I can jump in, I can get an asset, I can take care of this customer. Does TaaS have like it's only for like a period of time, like it has to be a week, a month? What is the way you work with TaaS? If I'm a motor carrier broker, how do I work with TaaS?
Yeah, so if you were to call into Wabash, it is very solution centric, just like the product itself, right? It's almost a customizable package. So if you want to jump in and jump out, we have a mechanism to do that. If you want to use it for 2 weeks, a month, we have a mechanism to do that. If you want to have it for 3 or 4 years, we have a mechanism to do that. And then there's layers of additional services that you can tack onto that to facilitate the method at which you want to consume capacity.
I love that, because the mentality from the leasing companies, the trailer leasing companies specifically, is generally, and I'm going to paraphrase, I have a lot of friends in the leasing business, 7 years full maintenance lease, that's all we offer. Or 7 years net lease, you maintain it, but it's going to be 5 or 7 years. Yeah. And every customer, whether they're a motor carrier or a broker or anyone, or a shipper with a private fleet, they want the flexibility. They want to be able to bring it back and say, I'm done now. Can you take it? And I think that's the story we're watching as you guys are building this option up, because I don't think people are familiar with working with a company that can provide capacity and flexible terms where you can bring it back when you're done with it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So it is a very unique product that's out there, and it really does not, go right into the teeth of the business model or the market that traditional leasing and rental companies go after. It's a new market that's emerging, and we scale with the growth of that new market to where it really pairs with those that can use data well, which are the digital brokers, some private fleets that want access to really understand how they want to use capacity wisely in different ways. And they can be consuming TaaS in 5 different ways in a single company, depending on what they need. So, and because we want, it's really about how do you have to be able to reroute those trailers back into where they're needed to be used in a very deliberate way. Completely different set of issues than, say, standard leasing and rental.
Absolutely. Now, we share a mutual friend, Shannon Breen of Freightvana. How
Sure.
did you get to know Shannon? Because I've known him for a minute. I'm a big fan.
Well, I met Shannon with a chance phone call in, I think it was 2020, when I was camping somewhere. It was a Sunday morning. I was cooking breakfast, and he calls me out of nowhere and says, I want to talk trailers.
That's the best conversation.
Like, who in the hell are you? And from that started a dialogue and a conversation and sharing perspectives. And so we've, Wabash and Freightvana have been kind of going back and forth on, where the world's going, how do we best serve it? Well, how do you want to be innovative, and just working it.
That's incredible. The supply chain is such an interesting industry, because to your point, like, it's one of the largest industries in the United States. It's $1 trillion a year domestically. And it's a big industry, but like, it's very small. There's like 20 people who are in this business, and you get to meet them over time, and they all have these great stories of how they got into the business. Now that you're deep into transportation, where do you see the next couple of years, like the biggest opportunities for you personally, or just for Wabash generally?
Well, we're loaded with opportunities and challenges that are uniquely different than maybe what we've seen. Well, not maybe, than what we've seen in the last 15 years. We are not done with disrupting supply chains with, when, whatever, call it modulation happened with tariffs under the Trump administration. We're in a 20-year to 30-year movement within supply chains. It's a generational thing. So Wabash has to think about that.
I couldn't agree more. I think we are watching a new era of supply chain happen, and it's always like, you never know you live in a historic moment until like you're well past it, and you look back and go, I had no idea this was happening. Yeah. And I think, go ahead.
Post World War II, we'll call it supply chain engineering, was a 50, 70-year process with a renaissance really in the 90s and early 2000s to refine it into a relatively efficient mechanism. And then it gets blown up overnight. That leaves baggage. And it does not get fixed quickly. So you just have to step back and go, it's going to take 20 or 30 years of rewiring as people try to get back to the next new version post globalization. And it's all going to be based, where does trade go? And in today's terminology, right, America first perspective, We don't exactly know what that means. So you really can't design to the end. You're kind of riding the wave and trying to be as adaptable as you can be.
Well, I think that's a great message to kind of wrap up on. For folks that are wanting to learn more about you or learn more about Wabash, where can they go? We can link them in the show notes.
So Wabash is on, LinkedIn, X, Instagram. You can go to onewabash.com and look us up. And we're a publicly traded company, so we have tremendous levels of transparency into our business. We're the only one that can offer that. So feel free to give us a call. Phone numbers, emails are all there, and we'd be really happy to do business with you.
Well, I appreciate making time, Brent. Thank you for joining the podcast. I hope you have a great rest of your day, my friend.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. Discussion.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, everyone, that's it. That's the Trailer Podcast. We'll have more of those. I'll get Brent to come back. We'll talk more about those beautiful boxes. As we look to the future, the supply chain promises safely delivering freight on time and undamaged. We all want to get home in the same condition that we left, and companies like Wabash are working hard, tirelessly, to solve the biggest problems facing the American supply chain. What do we want? Trailers. When do we want them? All the time. And how well maintained? Very well maintained. Wabash is a company you should know. You probably do, but make sure to give them a follow. As we wrap up for today, I have to say thank you, as always, to the friends that helped make this possible. You, the listener, the viewer. I couldn't do this. I wouldn't do this if it wasn't for you. And of course, our friends at DAT, Dial a Truck 1978. That old load board, that was in a truck stop. You'd go and you'd look at it and you'd make phone calls. That's what it's all about. Save some money with DAT by going to the show notes below and click and learn more. And of course, Genlogs, setting a new standard of care for freight technology, freight insights, freight fraud, technology working for you to help you find great carriers and places you operate, and helping you find that lost or stolen equipment. Find yourself at Genlogs and take a look at the demo. Tell Ryan that I sent you. Maybe he's listening. I certainly hope so. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you next time on the Armchair Attorney Podcast.